Hi, I'm so glad you're here for this one. In IELTS Writing Task 2, many students believe that adding examples will automatically make their answers stronger. However, this is not always true. In some cases, examples can actually weaken a paragraph and reduce the effectiveness of your response. In this video, we will look at when examples hurt your Task 2 score and why explanation and development matter more than simply adding an example. Let's start with the first key point. The first important point is this: examples do not replace explanation. A common problem in IELTS writing is that some students give an example instead of explaining their idea, but an example on its own does not show why something happens or how it supports your argument. If the main idea is weak or unclear, adding an example does not fix the problem. In other words, a weak idea plus an example is still a weak paragraph. Strong paragraphs begin with a clear point, followed by explanation. An example, if used, should come after the explanation to support it, not replace it. The second issue is using irrelevant or weakly linked examples. An example should clearly support the point you're making. If the connection between the idea and the example is unclear, the example does not help the paragraph. A common case of this is very personal examples, such as writing about an uncle, a cousin, or a family friend. They are not technically wrong, but they are usually weak and risky and often hurt the quality of the argument. These examples are often too specific and difficult to connect to or support a general argument. Because they focus on one individual, they do not clearly show how the idea applies more broadly. In IELTS Writing Task 2, examples work best when they support general trends, situations, or groups rather than personal stories. If an example cannot be easily linked back to the main idea, it weakens the paragraph instead of strengthening it. The third problem is using over-detailed examples. Some students believe that adding more details makes their writing stronger. However, too much detail can actually distract from the main idea of the paragraph. Names, unnecessary background information, or long descriptions take up space without improving explanation. When an example becomes a short story, the focus of the paragraph is lost. Instead of adding detail, it is more effective to explain the idea clearly and use a short, focused example only when needed. In IELTS writing, detail should support clarity, not replace it. The fourth problem is using obvious or common sense examples. Some examples do not really add anything to the paragraph because the idea is already clear without them. For example, if the idea is that social media is widely used today, saying, for example, many people use social media every day, does not add any new information. Similarly, if the idea is that traffic congestion is a problem in cities, saying, for example, many cities experience traffic jams, does not add any new information. These kinds of examples simply repeat or restate the main idea instead of developing it. When an example is predictable or self-evident, it does not strengthen the paragraph. In such cases, clear explanation is often more effective than adding an example. If an example does not add clarity or depth, it's better to leave it out. The next issue is using too many examples in one paragraph. Some students include 2 or 3 examples to support the same idea. However, this often reduces focus and makes the paragraph harder to follow. A single, well-chosen example is usually enough to support one main point. Adding multiple weak examples does not strengthen the argument and can actually weaken paragraph organization. In most cases, one strong example works better than several weak ones. The final point is about order. In a strong paragraph, explanation should come before the example. Explanation helps the reader understand what the main idea is and why it matters. When an example is given too early, before the idea is explained, the paragraph can feel confusing or unfocused. A clearer pattern is first state the idea, then explain it, and finally use an example if it is needed. When examples follow explanation, they support the idea more effectively and improve overall clarity. To summarize, examples are not automatically helpful in IELTS Writing Task 2. When examples are irrelevant, over-detailed, obvious, or poorly placed, they can weaken your paragraph instead of strengthening it. A strong paragraph begins with a clear idea, followed by explanation. An example, if used, should be focused, relevant, and clearly linked to the point you are making. Remember, examples are there to support your ideas, not to replace explanation or fill space. Once you start using examples more carefully, your writing becomes clearer, more focused, and more effective overall. That's all for this session. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for more short IELTS writing tips, and share it with anyone who is preparing for IELTS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.